Hi, Matt. I was looking forward to talking to you.
It was so clear to me that this is just about basically one person talking to another.
We all have the same excitements, passion, demons, procrastination.
I've been cursed and blessed with an overactive imagination.
MattLees Gets Creative contains themes and subjects that may not be suitable for everyone listening. If you're easily offended, we suggest that you get your podcast on elsewhere.
Right here, right now, on MattLees Gets Creative.
And the way I use my magic as well is I try and let people do as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
So it's not me showing off; it's them doing it. Mm-hmm. So it almost makes them look like they're really good. So again, that builds that sort of level of trust that I'm not going to make them look stupid.
Yeah. When I started this project, I had sort of a bucket list for the type of arts that I would love to talk to people about, and magic was certainly at the top of it. Bryan Gunton's my guest this week, who's an events magician. He also owns the Small Place in Barrie, which could be the smallest magic theater in the world. He tells us how he got started. He tells us about his inspirations, all right here on MattLees Gets Creative at ML Gets Creative on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening. Where we always start is inspirations. Was there a moment for you where you thought, magic, that's cool, that's what I want to do? Or was it always in your life?
Yeah, so it was the classic thing of the first magic set as a child, which spurred it on, really, the imagination. I'm dyslexic, so it quite appealed to me to be able to figure something out that wasn't from a written book, where it was a practical aspect that I could excel at rather than worrying about the schoolwork side of it. Mm-hmm. So I kept going into that then really through sort of most of my childhood into my mid-teens, and then put it away a bit. Then I think it was 95 that the David Blaine special came on and then spurred my interest back into it.
Right. And I remember that David Blaine special. Now I had probably the similar set, for me, I think it was the Paul Daniels magic kit, and it comes with a few cups and a few balls and a string and a rope. Yeah.
I've still got them.
Yeah. Well, I imagine because you see that sometimes you watch somebody like David Blaine and you forget that he's doing magic. You're just kind of watching him going, whoa. But then when you want to get really deep on it, I have a lot of friends that are pro wrestlers. And I think there's a lot of similarity between pro wrestling and magic, in the sense of there's a lot of show going on, and there's a lot of things you don't talk about, but there's also a lot of really fascinating things happening in front of you a lot of the times.
Yeah, I think one of the frustrations is making it seem effortless is quite hard work, mm-hmm. and that hard work doesn't always get appreciated because it's effortless.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
As an artist, that's what you're trying to give over, the fact that it's effortless. Yeah. But people then don't appreciate how much effort goes into it, really.
Yeah, and somebody who would be a little bit into magic would start to realize the amount of things that a magician is doing when you're not watching him or her. It's the Star Wars quote. I'm a nerd, so I always use Star Wars quotes. These are not the droids you're looking for. So, yeah, you may be telling me a story about this is the 5 of hearts and what what I want to know is what the left hand's doing and what the other things. So that's, I think, the really fascinating part about that. Did you pick up on that when you were young too, watching magic?
Magic was almost more of a problem-solving exercise for me. It was something to engage my brain.
Yeah.
And I was always fascinated with puzzles, and I liked that side of it, and that's what drew me in. The fact that then you had the extra bonus of being able to fool people and get smiles, reactions off people, and try and make it an emotional connection was a mass appeal then when I got into it again. And that's the level I sort of went at, was the fact that you try to make it not just ta-da, but wow, you know, or that deep feeling.
Or stunned silence, I imagine you would love to see.
And to be honest, sometimes stunned silence is more powerful than applause.
Oh, definitely.
Especially when you build the time in for people to reflect. I've got a sort of 20-seat magic theatre, and one of the things we've noticed is the level of intimacy. Instead of performing for sort of 500 people, 600 people, performing for 20 people, you can take them on a journey over 90 minutes, and the reactions are much more gradual. But then obviously it builds to a fantastic result in the end.
Yeah, and that's located in Cardiff?
That's in Barry in South Wales. Yeah. It's the smallest magic theatre in the world.
Wonderful. That sounds. My wife and I are close, so we'll definitely have to.
Midlife crisis.
It's your Did you say it's your midlife crisis to build a theater? Some guys get a Harley. Some guys.
Well, it would have been cheaper.
Yeah. Well, some guys buy a bunch of recording gear and start a podcast. So.
Well,
there we are. So, but no, my wife and I love magic. We'll definitely have to come there soon. And a lot of my listeners will know of Barry Island, and I'm sure you know exactly the reference I'll make. And that's Gavin and Stacey. Really opened it up.
250 yards from Stacey's mum's house.
Well, is it sad that I know where that is now? Is that
it is?
That's a bit sad, isn't it? But no, so many friends because I was born in Wales. Grew up in Canada, moved back to Wales. So now my Canadian friends and American friends will say, "Oh, do you live near Barry Island where Gavin and Stacey is?" And I was like, it's down the road. We go there for the weekends and we just get ice cream and sit on the wall. You know, that's a thing to do. Do you get into any walk around magic in?
Yeah, so I'm a full-time magician for sort of 10 years. So the magic I perform is kind of a mix. So it's a mix of sort of wedding, personal, private events through cocktail situations, strolling, or whether it's a round table. So you approach a table of 10 people and go through it that way.
Yeah.
And then obviously on the flip side is the standing up and doing a show in front of people is sort of the other one as well as the corporate work with trade shows and exhibitions and things like that I do.
And the stand up and do the show thing would be more what would happen at as you said, the smallest magic theater in the world.
Yeah, so it's run by me and my business partner. We're both full-time magicians, and we've just changed the show actually. So tomorrow we'll be doing sort of half hour of close-up magic, more sort of gambling kind of things.
Yep.
Then I'll be doing the mind reading for half hour, and then we'll be both doing the last half hour, and then we do bar magic as well upstairs.
Oh, that sounds great. And let's name the theater because I don't think we did.
Sort of a combined solution really to see a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. And we didn't name the theater, so what's the name?
It's called The Small Space.
The Small Space. Wonderful. Cool. And when you do that mind reading kind of stuff, I bet you there's loads of questions I'd love to ask you that you'd go nowhere near answering with that kind of stuff. It's kind of like when I talk to, like I said, a pro wrestler. There's a line that I can get to with them, and then there's that line of like, well, in the wrestling world, it's called kayfabe. And I imagine it's very relevant in your world too, because there is that secrecy of it has to remain a show, so you can't let all the secrets out.
I think the thing is, I'm a member of the Magic Circle, so one of the things with that is not to. So you're encouraged not to give away secrets of magic. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, these days, if people really want to find out, they just go on YouTube or something like that. But in my day, it was if I wanted to find out, I'd have to go and get a magic book from a library, try and find it. It was a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
So on one edge, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. More people are coming into it because the access is more. But then more people who just want to figure stuff out will go on and put exposure videos and things like that on. So it's kind of, it encourages or fuels new things all the time, really. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and as someone myself who's done the YouTube journey about a magic trick, I'm going to tell everyone listening, it spoils it. It's like opening your presents on Christmas and then taping them back together, and you're like, oh, it's cool, but you don't get that, So I've looked up tricks and learned how they're done, and it spoils it for me. So
there's an old expression that if you want to get someone to hate magic, marry them, and it's only so many times you can show your wife a card trick before she gives up.
Yeah, This is what's funny is through this project I've been talking to people for about 6 months, and like I said, all different kinds of artists. There's been a few recurring themes, and one of them is the partner just kind of being like, It's, oh, yes, great. Yes, honey, you're a wonderful guitar player. Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, that's a great book that you've written. And for yourself, it's, another magic trick. Thank you. It's so funny that all these creative people were kind of, it's not that you're doing it in your dark circle, but it's kind of like it's your hobby. But at home, you're just dad or husband or, hey, you take out the trash.
Yeah, one of the things I did early on when I went full time was I tried to separate what I do. So I don't do magic in the house unless my friends have brought people around, or my children. It's very uncool for my children to mention anything about my magic until they bring their friends round.
Yeah,
and then it's, oh, can you show some magic? That kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's for 20 minutes I feel like the cool dad, and then it goes away again. So it's quite important, I think, sometimes to separate it. Otherwise, it can be, when it's your job, for instance, when you're doing it 6 days a week, the last thing you want to do on your day off is if someone says, do you want to do a trick, or do you want to go somewhere and watch magic? It's kind of the last thing you want to do. Yeah. I suppose it's with any career, really. It's, you can oversaturate yourself with what's out there, really. So
yeah, and I guess that you need that home life as well, because if you were doing data entry during the day, you wouldn't come home and do data entry in the evening and show it to your kids, right? So
exactly, it's that kind of thing. So it's unusual, but I can sympathize how doctors feel when they go to a party and someone comes up to them and say, "Oh, can you have a quick look at this?" It's a very similar kind of thing.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time working in a phone shop, so I know that exact vibe, because I'd always see people go, "Oh, talk to Matt. He works in the phone store," and I'd be like, "Oh no." I can recognize the walk as they're reaching for their phone, walking towards me, and I was like, and they used to do it all the time. The difference is that's a lot less fun than magic is, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's. I think what you have to do is, magic is a great way of achieving an impact with lots of people from different walks of life, from different levels of education, from different levels of abilities. It's a leveler. So you can do something for someone who's an MD of a company, and you can do someone for the receptionist. And all those levels of pay grades in between, but all of a sudden you show them something together, and it's a great leveler, really. Everyone has that moment to share, which is what it's all about, really.
Yeah, because it opens up that childlike wonder, maybe, and everyone's just
that's the goal, really. Once you've achieved that once, you're constantly trying to chase that and get that feeling for people as well.
Yeah, that's the dragon. Everyone has the dragon they're chasing, and that's your dragon. Yeah. Do you notice there's a certain kind of trick that is more impactful on people? Is it cards? Is it mind reading? Is there more of a reaction from either one?
I think it's changed, really. It's like fashion. It changes. So you'll see something on the TV, more sort of the dead and brown kind of thing, and then the next couple of years, people will be more into the mind reading side of it. For me, it's about tactile interaction. So I will always choose the playing cards, because people can bring their own cards. I will use those, but you can give them to people. You can give 5 cards to one person, 5 cards, and then they're involved. When you're doing, certain stuff, and there's tricks out there with phones and things, and it's all very hands off, should we say? There doesn't tend to be that interaction. You'll get a good clip for Instagram, but then they forget about the other 7 minutes of the trick, and it's just that big impact. And I think that's the trouble as well when you perform and stuff, or you see clips about a reaction. You forget that actually to get that reaction, there's a lot of other stages that you don't see. So that's frustrating, because when people see that on TV, they want to recreate just the ta-da moment and all the other stuff that goes with it. The attention needs to be gathered through that whole process to get the reaction.
Yeah, I imagine you must see some things like, for example, David Blaine would do, and you'd think, "Oh, come on, man. Does he have? Come on."
Yeah, I wish I had his money.
Yeah. Oh, even like even a half of it. Like I'm sure he's got so much.
Yeah, I think the thing is, people they work hard and they get rewarded, and I think that's obviously in creative industries, luck is a huge right time, right place. It's a big factor, but undoubtedly Dynamo worked really hard for a lot of years before he was on TV, trying to get that thing. That's what his goal was, to get on there. he did it. He's got the rewards off that financially and famously, you know. So for me, it's always been about trying to create a balance between enjoyment, earning a living through doing something I love, and then trying to just do my own thing rather than look what everyone else is doing and, you know, try and just buy that thing because it's the new thing and everyone wants to do it. And then 2 weeks later, there's 1,000 magicians all doing the same trick. So
yeah, that's a big part of the creativity, isn't it? You have to find your niche, I guess it is. Do something a little different because you don't want to just be doing the stuff that you could see a teenager do on YouTube, I guess. You know, it has to be some sort of a wow factor involved. We'll head right back to our conversation. I know. We all hate ads on our podcasts, but indulge me, if you will, just for a moment. Here at MLGC, we've started a patron program, but it's not like many of the other programs that you hear about, and that's for one special reason. And that reason is it's all for a great cause. See, during season 1, we donated half of all our patron donations to the Velindre Cancer Centre right here in South Wales. It's a fantastic hospital run by amazing people that are saving lives every day, including my own. For season 2, we wanted to step things up, so I'm glad to let you know that from here on out, we're donating 100%. That's each and every penny we receive through our kind supporters to the Velindre Cancer Centre. Sure, we could use the funds towards the cost of running a show, but we wanted to do more with your kind donations, so we're paying it forward. If you'd like to help out, you can join the Creative Club, and it's $5 a month. You'll get access to exclusive episodes, a chance to submit questions in advance for upcoming guests, and you'll have the knowledge that you're helping me help others. I know everyone can't afford to donate to every cause, no matter how worthy they are. But if you are looking to spread some love, like our dear friend and supporter, the patron saint of podcasters, Librarian Kate, then we'd love to have you be a part of it. Check it out at patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. That's patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. Join the Creative Club and help us battle cancer one podcast at a time. I just came up with that last part on the fly. That's pretty good.
I think what I try and sell rather than the magic is the thing that goes along with that. It's all about the experience. So everyone, as you say, everyone can buy a trick from a magic shop, practice that one trick and do it. And people do. And people get a great reaction. But when you're trying to get that reaction twice a day, 6 days a week, all of a sudden you realize that the trick is actually not the magic. The magic is the interaction. The magic is how you can guide people not actually using the trick, and the trick all of a sudden becoming from 100% of what you're doing, it drops down to sort of 20% of what you're doing. And the rest of it is interaction with audience, doing introductions, you know, getting corporate messages across, anything really. And you have to, at that point, sacrifice the love of magic for the financial side of it, which sometimes gets frustrating. But the reality is, when you want to make the money, you have to compromise on some of the creativity to deliver a product that's reliable and obviously it provides a service.
Yeah, it's that fine line, I think, you know, between being creative and doing something you love, but also needing to make a living from it. So it's that hard. That's one of the other themes that keep coming up.
Yeah, that's why. So my theatre I use for the creative side, whereas the commercial side and private functions I use around that. It does help fund my enjoyment. Yeah. But a very famous magician said to me on Saturday, I can feed my family. Now it's time to feed my heart. So that's nice. Once you've got that one thing, Sean Farquhar, that was, it was a big magic convention on last weekend, and he said that. And it's great, the amount of people, big name TV series, that want to come and perform in our venue from all over the world. We had, even this week, we had someone from Japan performing in. We've had people from Italy, America, Canada, Holland. So, and they come over to perform for 90 minutes for 20 people, which is unheard of. There's no one else doing it in the world for that amount of numbers requiring that. So it becomes a challenge for them creatively, which is, again, why they will come. Because, we've got a waiting list of people who actually want to come. Because of that need to feed the creativity to get away from the dragon of the beast and all that side of it.
Because I can't imagine how cool it would be to watch an entertainment experience that I love with just like 20 people. It sounds beautiful, right?
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to come round.
Definitely, we will definitely come and see it.
And so I think one of the particular highlights of last year was we had a cancellation, and I was just outside making a phone call to someone who was on a waiting list, and a guy walked past and looked at the poster on the wall and said, "Is that Mark Paul? Mark Paul?" I said, "Well, it's Mark Paul. I don't know who you comparing it with." He said, "But we saw him on a cruise 2 weeks ago, and he was performing in a 2,000-seat theatre for 45 minutes. He's not in here, is he?" And we said, "Yes, he is."
Yeah.
And he's doing twice as long for 20 people.
Yeah.
So he booked the last 2 tickets then and there, brought his wife as a surprise, and they were so impressed because they'd put it down to, oh, he must have had help on stage, he must have done this. But along with that intimacy, they're actually within arm's distance of a person they saw in a big theatre, which for them, it was their anniversary. It was just a wonderful thing, and that for them was, they'll never get our reaction again because of the intimacy, the history with seeing them. And what we love to do, we love to facilitate as many of those reactions as we can. And that's kind of our mission statement, really. Yeah. Why we get people in.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's with so much streaming entertainment and digital stuff and internet, people are not going out as much anymore. So I always feel like even when I'm trying to do a gig as a musician, people can see and hear music anywhere. Why are they coming to see me? And I think especially with magic or things like that, it's you're going out for the experience now. You're not technically going out to a magic show. You're going to a night out. You're going to an experience to have those memories and those things like you were mentioning that you never forget. You can't have those nights really when you're sitting at home eating pizza on the sofa.
I totally agree, and that's one of the reasons why we were frustrated with lack of venues that we could perform in. So what we thought, well, let's just get our own venue.
Yeah.
And it took a bit of a leap of faith, and we were the first ones in UK planning history to turn a Victorian shop into a D2 listed theatre. Yeah. So it is the smallest commercial theatre in Wales, if not the UK. And it's then we decided why not fit a cinema in there. So we've got a 92-inch screen, all surround sound, 4K. And then we thought, well, actually, it's now the smallest commercial cinema in the UK. It'll never make money, but it draws people in, and then they buy tickets for the venue, to come and see the stuff that does make money.
Yeah.
So we kind of do that. We've got shows coming up. We did one 2 nights ago. We put Top Gun on, and it was great. The sound of the jets in a 16-foot by 12-foot room.
Yeah, that must have been amazing. I'd like to see like a Star Trek or a Star Wars in there,
Yeah, so we've got Quadrophenia coming up next, I think. But then we tried to do some cult ones, some non-cult ones. Yeah. We got like the Breakfast Club and then Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
So we try and link them together. We're trying to get a Princess Bride. So, a bit of classics and all of it, really. We just, what we wanted to do is create an outlet for someone, to come and perform, even if they want to hire the place, come in, do an acoustic set, record some music. We've had some great jazz musicians come in and record an album because the acoustics are great. We've had National Radio Wales. They come in and record comedy specials. It's a great space.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, you must be like a proud papa because it's kind of like your baby with your...
Yeah, it's quite good. It's as much work as being a proud papa as well. So
I imagine, yeah.
As well as doing the magic, you're doing the bar and cleaning the toilets. So it's
yeah, that's love though. That's love of the magic. That's the love of the the passion. That's the passion I think that will make you do that.
I think it's I think you have to as I said, feed your heart.
Mm-hmm. Now I have to ask because I'm a nerd who's been to a lot of comic book conventions, but I've never been to a magic convention. What's that like? That must be
they are scary. Cool. So last weekend, I, as well as another 4,000 magicians, descended on Blackpool for the annual magic convention. It's the largest magic convention in the world.
Right.
And if you're looking for something new, it's kind of the place to go.
Yeah.
But we went to enjoy some of the shows. We saw some of the Fabulous Illusion shows and things. But then also we go through a lot of material in what we do. So we're looking for new ideas, new aspects, how we can utilize different things. We've got a new show starting tomorrow. We've got a new show starting on Sunday for a family show. So it does take, all of a sudden one show is 90 minutes. So, the last 90 minutes you got to throw out and not use. So it's a great creative aspect because it does encourage you to learn new stuff. And that's been great, coming up with new stuff, coming up with our own stuff that we use, new presentations. But there's a lot of different demographics. It's so the same as comic book conventions. So you'll get all the young hipsters together, then you'll get the older guys together, then you get people who want to go and just have the photos and meet the people and the authors and stuff like that, and then you've got the people who just go in there to buy comics. So it's a bit of a mix with everything. Is there an atmosphere of kind of like magicians sitting around sharing trade secrets, kind of going like? Yeah, it's a great sharing thing, especially with younger people. So if someone comes over and asks, can you do this, how do you do this? It is a great, it is a great space for sharing. Obviously, you try and work within people's skill sets and limits, and try and find maybe they can't do a particular thing, but they can do a version of it. Yeah. That allow them to progress themselves and take that away and learn a little bit more and use some more techniques after. Yeah. Or you advise on, you might find it in this book or this book or on this DVD. And they can go away then with a shopping list and they can get exactly what they need to progress on what they're working with at the moment. So. Yeah, because they won't understand magic structurally, much like music, where someone will run up to someone and say, "Oh, teach me to play the lick from Sweet Child of Mine." And, but if you don't know anything about guitar, no one can teach you that. It is exactly that problem at the moment. You know, I meet people every day that do the shuffling, like the very flourished shuffling, and then you say to them, "Okay, show me a magic trick," and then they go, "Well, I don't know any magic tricks. I just learned this because it looks cool." And then you think, okay, there's other things to do. So, if you start teaching something basic, start basic and work your way up, as opposed to start huge. So I do lessons as well. So we always advise people to start on a progression, learn the basics, do the groundwork, and then there's plenty of time to go. The trouble is now, with the Facebook generation, with YouTube generation, there's so much content, it's overwhelming, and they just want to learn the new thing. Yeah. And they forget that the new things are based on old things, so 200 years old, really, the same principles. And then if you actually just look back and came up with a creative way of doing it from the older stuff, you'd probably get something a little bit original. So yeah, much the same as music. We always say there's only so many chords and so many songs, and it's kind of how you interpret that. Yeah, exactly. Do you ever have an atmosphere, because as musicians you do you ever have an atmosphere where there's a heckler in? I would lean towards at your theater, no, because it's such a small atmosphere. Maybe they're too intimidated, but I imagine you've run into the odd guy that's like, that ain't nothing. So the heckler. Pretty much every corporate event, there's at least one person on 3 tables that will just decide that he's speaking for the table. There's different ways of handling that, obviously. I had a particularly really cool incident with Suggs, who was very drunk and decided to snatch the cards and throw them up in the air, in the middle of a big formal event, and it's either me look silly or him look silly. So unfortunately, I made him look silly. So, and he stormed off then, and that was it. It's one of those things. I think sometimes, with celebrity events, they kind of, if they're hosting a table or it's an event where they're in charge, people are paid to be with them. They do feel like that. You have to prove yourself a little bit. Before they will just hand over to you for 5-10 minutes, but most of them are pretty good. I think it's the same with everything. Everyone's got hecklers, but it is how you deal with it. And sometimes is easy. Sometimes it's not. But at the end of the day, people are there to try and have a good time. So
Yeah.
you try and approach it. There are lots of different techniques. Like things will go really well for him, not so well for someone else. So they don't feel emasculated in any way or something like that. So it's not pandering to them, but it is just using them. If you make them your friend, he's going to speak to the whole table on your behalf anyway. So it's easier to try and convince him to turn than try and put up with someone just making those decisions. So.
Yeah, because I think it's that trust thing, that would also be similar to comedy in that there's that risk of somebody thinking incorrectly that you're trying to make them feel stupid or look stupid. And I know people wouldn't be trying to do that, but some people would react that way. You show them a trick and they don't know how you did it. They're like, oh, he's trying to make me look stupid.
That's a valid point. If I can, I'm the one who looks stupid rather than anyone else, right. And that I think I really haven't been heckled that many times because of the self-deprecating way I perform. It's almost, oh, don't worry, you'll be able to do it. I've never been able to do this. And the way I use my magic as well is I try and let people do as much of it as possible. Yeah. So it's not me showing off. It's them doing it. So it almost makes them look like they're really good. So again, that builds that sort of level of trust that I'm not going to make them look stupid. Yeah. Yeah, because trust is important, especially with magic, I think. Yeah. And if you're asking people to get in front of, especially when they do, large events with 300, 500 people, if you're asking people to come up and be compliant on a stage, it's all about audience selection. You have to think, actually, are they going to, do something or not? Are they drunk? Are they not? So, again, the trust kind of works both ways. You have to kind of, but that comes with experience, choosing the right people. Yeah. And again, being able to react if something does happen, and that's where the professionalism comes in, really.
Because I can't imagine playing in a band and being like, anybody want to play guitar? What about you, sir? Do you want to come up and play the guitar with us? Because that's a lot of trust. So, because you would work so hard at your craft and you're ready to go, you're good to go. Do you get that fear of like somebody comes on stage and you're like, oh, I picked the wrong guy. Guy.
No, because ultimately, no one knows what you're going to do.
Right.
So, ultimately, whatever happens, if you've got the experience, there are lots of different ways you can go. So the flexibility is there. So, anyone who's getting paid money to perform should be able to perform with whatever is in front of them. We've had horrendous things happen lately with not in our venue. Our venue, we're quite spoilt because people have committed to come. They've committed to have a good time. Yeah. And everyone does. And then, so that's why we get quite a lot of reviews. But, you go to a corporate event and then the tables just start talking to each other and you've got to rudely interrupt them. And you're on that fine line and it becomes almost, you're there for a tick in a box. Oh, we need a magician, tick. They probably don't actually need a magician because of the type of event. If it's a networking event and they want to talk to each other and there's a lot of money. Yeah. So you kind of think, actually, I've got to interrupt you. And that's kind of changed, I think, over the last few years. Whereas, I'm quite prepared now to go back to a table if they're not engaged instantly. I'll go back. I'll tell them, I'll come back when you're not so busy. And then when I come back, generally they'll have finished the conversation and be, up for it, really. Yeah. But it's not easy. And, that's why it's a job, isn't it? It's not, you treat it as a job. So
yeah, nothing worth having is easy. Somebody more eloquent than me said that one time, I think. So it's that. But you got the passion for it. You have to build it. You have to earn it, and it's not ever going to be easy. I've had events where I'm hired as a musician, and I'm thinking in the middle of a set, thinking they did not need a musician at this event. Wow. And I think it's it's much more difficult because I don't have to walk up to anyone, I don't have to engage anyone really. If I feel uncomfortable or the crowd's not into it or the TV's on or they're not listening, I can just stare at my set list, stare at the ground, stare at the back of the wall, play my set and walk off, do the Beatles bow and walk off the stage. But you have to kind of go out there, even if you feel that crowd's like, oh, these guys, they're not feeling it at the moment, but I got to go out there and shake them and earn it. That must be a tough moment.
It is quite tough. Yeah, it is quite tough. There's a lot of pressure, but then I charge a lot of money, so
it comes with the game, I suppose.
Yeah.
what's the best way for people to follow you, keep in touch with you, especially because I'm locally based, and for our local listeners as well who want to come out and see you, what's the best way to check you out?
So on all social media, it's at Bryan Gunton, BryanGunton. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you want to check out the theatre, is thesmallspace.co.uk.
Wonderful. My wife and I will definitely be checking that out, and everyone else should too. Last thing, I always ask people, what advice do you give to somebody that wants to get into magic? I know it's a cheesy question. Everybody asks it, but it sounds great in sound clips.
No, and this advice has changed over the years, really.
Yeah.
Through me doing it. So you have to look at why you want to get into magic. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same with everyone. Some people want to do it, they want to be famous. Some people want to do it because they love it. Some people want to do it because they just want to learn some stuff to show their family and friends. So there's different levels. So once you've established that, you have to then really tell them that it's not about magic. If you're doing it professionally, there's a lot, probably 20% of your day job is not magic related. And a lot of people don't get that. They just think they'll just go out and do 2 hours work and that's it. You've got to market, you've got to spend time making contacts, going to meetings, doing all the non-exciting business stuff, which then allows you to do the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy, and it's not an overnight thing. It's not as easy as going on Britain's Got Talent and winning and then, having a year where you're lucky and then probably getting forgotten about.
Yeah.
It's a gradual process that you have to put in the groundwork. You have to learn basics. You have to learn how to do this, how to market yourself for whatever market you're going into. If you want to do it for family and friends, it's a great hobby. Probably 90% of the people who do magic in the UK do it as a hobby, and they show friends, family. They'll do occasional family weddings, things like that. Then there's another level who perhaps will have a job Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, and then do it in the evenings, and that's great. There comes a time though where those people decide, actually, I need to do it full time.
Yeah, and
that's where it becomes a financial consideration, because you've got to give up a steady income. You've got the added pressure of being able to get extra work in. There's nothing guaranteed in this, getting gigs yourself. 1 month you'll have loads, the next month it might be dry. So you have to have that budgeting aspect in mind to carry forward sort of, whatever you're earning. And a lot of people, unfortunately, assume that, right, I've got so many gigs now in the diary that I can give up my job. And then it only takes 4 or 5 gigs to cancel, and you're thinking, actually, I'm a bit tight this month. Yeah. And I've got nothing coming in. Whereas, just keep doing it, Do it for extra money, take your family on holiday, but spend time with your family. I think that's one of the things that I struggle with at the moment, is finding that amount of time to spend, and it's all a juggling act, isn't it? It's all, and before the kids have grown up. Yeah, before you know it, the kids have gone up and gone away, so, enjoy them while they're there. Yeah, that's another one of those recurring themes that keeps coming up as I talk to creative people, is take time for the family too, because it's easy to deep dive into it, and with respect. Family doesn't care about magic or music or movies, or they just want dad or husband or wife, and that's, I agree. That's another thing we keep coming up against, because they don't understand any of this. So I think the other thing you need, other than the talent and the desire and the passion, is the understanding of the people around you when you say, oh no, I've given up the job and I'm a writer now, Yeah, it's a tough one. I was quite fortunate. I was in the Air Force, and my contract came to the end, so I had an opportunity to try it for a year, and I was financially secure. And then whatever I earned that year, if it wasn't enough to live off the following year, I'd go and get another job. Fortunately, I'm always a year in advance, so I'm always paying myself the following year. Right. So, I set money aside to live off the first year, then whatever I earned was the next year. So I'm always, I've always got 12 months notice on how much I'm earning. Yeah, you've done it smart. Which is a great way of doing it, really, and I had a lot of advice at the time to do it that way. So that's fantastic. So I want to wish you continued success.
Thank you so much for talking with me. I will be seeing you soon at the theater to see some magic.
That's no problem. Let me know and I'll share it.
Thank you very much. Next time on MattLees Gets Creative.
I would go out and sit on those electrical green boxes in front of the houses. Back in the day, those humming little green things that I probably shouldn't have sat on. And I would just sit there with like a beer or coffee or whatever, and I would play as late as I could until, yeah. I mean, people on my neighborhood street knew me as the kid that sat outside and played guitar every night.
That's next time on MattLees Gets Creative. Please make sure you are following us on social media. It's at ML Gets Creative for Twitter and Instagram. That's so you never miss an episode. You can email in mattleesgetscreative@gmail.com. And as I always say, we would love to hear from you. And please, if you can, consider checking out our Patreon program. We're trying to take your kindness and pay it forward and help others in need. It would mean a lot to me. See you next time. And as always, you beautiful people, thanks for listening.